Welcome to Ideate. Some of you have already been here all morning for our portfolio review. So, but we're happy to welcome other students both online and here on site. So, hey, everybody. My name is ANDREA PIMENTEL. I'm one of the directors of advertising and web design and new media. We're really glad to have you here with us today. We've got a great alumni panel for you today, and I'm just going to hand it over to Jim WOJTOWICZ, who is faculty in the School of Advertising, who's going to lead our discussion today. Thanks.
Hi, guys. Thank you all for coming today. And thank you, first of all, to the Web New Media Department for having us. This is the first time the School of Advertising has been part of Ideate, and we're very grateful and happy to be part of that. So give it up for the Web New Media people. Yeah. And to continue on, I'd like to thank you guys for showing up. This is a great turnout, and we really appreciate you showing up. I know it's that time of year where it gets a little crazy, so thank you for that. And on top of that, I'd like to add a congratulations to you, because it says a lot about you as aspiring professionals to be here today. Despite all that's going on in finals, you're here. So give yourselves a round of applause right now. It's testament to you guys, the fact that you made it through and a lot of you are ready to graduate. That says that you have talent and that you've honed those skills and that you're ready to work. But more than that, you being here says a lot about your level of ambition, and that says a lot. And the fact that we have this esteemed panel here, it says a lot about. Speaking of talent and ambition, I'd like to point your direction to our panel here. So everyone up here is an alum, and even before I start to introduce them, let's give a nice round of applause and welcome them. So what we're going to do today, I've got a list of questions here. The focus is going to be at how do you get into this industry and how do you thrive in it? And these guys are doing it. So let me just introduce them by name, and then we'll go around and they'll tell you a little bit about themselves. So today we have Jessica West from Amazon. She's a UX designer. Raise your hand, Jessica. Yeah. And we have SHRAVAN HEGDE. Did I say that right? Yeah. The last name? Yeah. Almost? Yeah, okay. And SHRAVAN is a ACD over at Argonaut. And if you don't know what an ACD is, Associate Creative Director. That's a big deal. And give it up for SHRAVAN. We also have Rochelle Stevens over at HEGDE. Give it up for Rochelle. And Angela ALARCON from Ancestry.com. And last but not least, we have Thomas Murphy, who's at Palo Alto Networks. He's a creative copywriter. And just to let you know, we have a really nice range of graduates here. And by that I mean some that are sort of fresh out of the gate. Rochelle here is a very recent grad. And then SHRAVAN's been out there killing it for several years now. And 8 years now. 8 or 9, okay. Yeah, moving up the ladder, right? So there's a nice range here. So that being said, I'm going to hand the mic over to these guys, and they can tell you a little bit about themselves and the kind of things they're doing where they're working. I'll start with Thomas.
Okay. Well, can everyone hear me? Okay. I'm a copywriter at Palo Alto Networks. We're a cybersecurity company, and I work for their in-house agency. So I do a lot of the outbound marketing and campaigns and things like that. Been out for 2 years now. Feels good. And thanks for coming, I guess.
Hi, I'm Angela. I'm a UX lead at Ancestry. I've been out of school for about 2 years. I graduated 2016 fall. I actually met someone from Ancestry at the Ideate Conference that I was at, and I got hired from that. So this is really good, and I fully support everyone here. Yeah, thank you.
My name is Jessica. I'm a UX designer at Amazon. This is my first year at Amazon. I actually came out of the internship program last summer, or the summer before that. So I was here last year as one of you. We kind of consider ourselves as generalists, so we do everything UX design, starting with the research, all the way to like wireframes, testing, to the full end-to-end prototype design, and we test and test and test, and then finally put it out to the world. So yeah.
Hi everyone, my name's Rochelle. I graduated from the academy last year in fall 2018. I interned at 2 different companies for 4 months and then 3 months, and I got hired at Heat in September. I worked as a strategy coordinator, so what I do is I make sure that all the campaigns are running. I run social media channels for 4 clients now, and basically I do data analytics, research, whatever they need me to do. I do it.
Hey guys, I'm SHRAVAN HEGDE. So yeah, like Jim said, I graduated in 2010, I think. Makes me feel really old saying that. It was like not too long ago. I was right there with you guys sitting and looking at panelists, and it's just kind of weird right now, but it's awesome too. So I'm happy to be here. I'm an ACD at Argonaut. I joined Goodby. It was my first job. I was at Goodby for like 6 years, and then I joined Argonaut 3 years ago. So yeah, I'm happy to be here and answer all your questions. Cool.
Great, thank you guys. Let's give them one more round. Let's for a nice warm. Cool. So let's jump right in. The first and easiest question in some ways probably, how'd you get into the industry? And follow up, like it's a 2-parter. And why do you stay?
I mean, that's a really good question. I was actually traveling around, originally from Bombay. Me and my now wife, then girlfriend, we just want to explore the world. We did film in the past, and we moved to the academy just to explore because we like the diversity in the city and what the academy had to offer. So moved here working in advertising, very, very focusing on traditional media like film and TV, and through my experience in the academy, I started falling in love with the city's like infatuation of like tech and data, and I kind of switched my brain to like making work which is more experiential, a little more like digital. So I kind of shifted gears to do like innovation, experiential stuff in advertising and design. And then I started shopping way early before I graduated. I started talking to people. I started going to ad meetups. I hung out at bars where all my teachers, all my instructors used to hang out in. So we had instructors from like Addict, we had instructors from Goodby, and then I like not in a creepy way, but be like, hey, what's up? Hey, I was like, and just talk to them because someone told me once that if you can have a beer with me, and I can and I like you, then I like to work with you, or work for you, or work vice versa, and that goes a long way because work is one thing, and you always pursue for the best, but also working with someone is very crucial, and how you work with someone, and that really defines who you are as you go up. So so at a bar, and then I met someone from Goodby, and then I just I shopped my book around. Later, I sent an email, I get a call, and I had 1 semester to go. So the way I planned it was, I think I finished my director studies. I finished all my semester before, and I kept like my last semester was at Goodby, so I was working, but also like finishing my last semester doing like actually new media. I did a class with Colin. Shout out Colin if you're here, and book arts. But why I did that was because it helped me become a better art director. So as I'm working, but I'm also working with different departments in the academy. So when I work with them, when I work with that kind of department and that industry in the future, I know more about it and I can talk more about it. So does that make sense? Yeah. Sure,
absolutely. Yeah. One thing that keeps you in the industry after 9 years.
Oh, that's a tough one, actually. I'm kind of reconstructing. No, I'm just kidding. No, what keeps me in industry actually is the city. Again, the city is full of. I've had a lot of opportunities to move to New York. Again, it's a big hotbed for advertising, design, new media. Had an opportunity to move abroad, but what San Francisco really keeps you grounded is that the people and this fascination of the new. What's new out there? What's different out there? And that's what that keeps me really motivated. Like I want to know what's different. What's the next big thing? And as advertisers, we want to be a part of that. just not make a simple ad that like is flashy in your face, but make something which is more engaging, which is a little more like you want to be a part of it. You know, it's instant gratification, but it's not in your face. It doesn't punch you in your face. You want to be a part of it. And this city offers that, and that's why I'm still in advertising in San Francisco. So if I move, I'll probably be in something else. Great,
thank you. Thanks very much. Rochelle, same question. How'd you get in?
So I'm originally from India too. Represent. I did my bachelor's back in India in media studies and literature and psychology. And when I finished, I originally wanted to get into criminal psychology. And I have a weird obsession with like murder mysteries. So that's what I wanted to do. But the more I thought into it, I also had this creative side to me. But I didn't want to let go of my psychology roots and how much I love studying human behavior and the human mind. So in my final semester, when I was doing my undergrad, I had a class in advertising. And I knew a little bit about advertising, but in that class, it made me think a lot more about it. It had like the design aspect to it. It had the psychology aspect to it. Like it ticked everything off. So as soon as I graduated, I took like 2 months off to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. I remember I applied to a college in London and they rejected my application and said that I don't have what it takes to thrive in this industry. But so that kind of discouraged me, but they also told me that like my design skills were weak, and I agreed that they were weak. So I took those 2 months off. I went to a design school, learned how to design, and then I applied to the academy, came over here. And then while I was over here, I was kind of stuck whether I wanted to be a copywriter, art director, or creative strategist. And I remember having a meeting with an instructor that used to be here named Cameron, and Cameron told me that we spoke about it, and then he said, if you want to be a strategist, you're out there in the world discovering new things, and you're learning about people, you're understanding behavior, and that's what I inclined to most. So I did my master's over here, specialized in strategy, and then I graduated last year. But my advice would be, yeah, you're a strategist, you're a copywriter, art director, that's your individual identity. But when you apply for jobs, you have to have all the skills because that's what they look for. It's like a three-dimensional person. And so I use my writing skill, I use my design skill, and I use my strategy skill to kind of put myself out there to get jobs, to interview with people, to get internships at places that I wanted to be in. And during my time over here, since I came from India, like I didn't know anyone. It was like building my life from the ground again. The only people that I knew were like my instructors. So I made sure that I was nice to my instructors. I listened to what they said, build contacts off of them, because like if you make a good impression on them, like they will call people and they will suggest your name to people. So I'd say that it's just impressing your instructors, like listening to what they say, because they've had years of experience in the industry, and building yourself up from there. So yeah, so that's how I got in. I did an internship at FCB West as soon as I graduated for 4 months, and then as soon as I finished that internship, through Spring Show, which is very important and all of y'all should go for it, I got offered an internship at BSSP to be a new business intern. And as soon as I finished my internship at BSSP, HEGDE reached out to me and hired me as a strategy coordinator over there. And what's kept me in the industry for over a year?
Maybe if that's a tricky one, because maybe rephrase it a little bit. What's the best thing that's happened so far that it made you realize, wow, I made the right choice?
That's a good question, because yesterday a campaign that I worked on at HEGDE launched, and for this bourbon company called Wild Turkey. And it was like a surreal moment when they sent out the email and my name was in it. And I was like, oh my God, this is like, it's happening. I feel like that moment, like I was really happy, but it just, everything that I worked hard for like showed at that moment, but it doesn't mean now I just become like lethargic and I'm like, yeah, I'm done with this. It just means I have to push harder. But to have your name on a campaign is, it's a moment you won't forget, like, is when you're entering this industry. So yeah.
Great, thank you very much. Jessica, same question.
All right, so around my sophomore year of college, I finally clicked like what web design and new media was. Took me about my freshman year to really understand what I was doing here. At that time, though, I realized how important networking was. So I just put myself out there, made a ton of connections, got coffee chats with people in the industry, and it eventually led to like many little freelance jobs and then like really temporary internships. But it was something I could put on my resume and eventually hope I could put it in my portfolio. So eventually that led to our portfolio class, and I finally had something where I thought I was ready enough to apply for internships. So I got lucky and went to New York for a summer for an internship, and out of that I got an awesome project that I was finally able to put in my portfolio. So then the next year came around, and I knew that job in New York was all visual design, and I knew I hated visual design. It was a great learning experience because I think you don't really understand what you want to do until you go through it. And so internships are awesome learning experiences. And I knew I just wanted to do UX design. I had those visual design skills, but I didn't want it to be my full-time job. So that's when I applied to like over 100 places for my internship the next year. And I landed with Amazon, which I was super lucky with an awesome team, awesome mentor. And it turned into a full-time job. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Can I hit rewind real quick? So you mentioned as you started, you set up some coffee chats. Can you drill down on that a little bit? Tell us about how that happened and how you set them up.
Yeah. So actually, I played softball at the university. So it was someone within the athletic department that mentioned they had a friend that needed help with some logo designs and just wanted to meet me. And I was like, oh yeah, definitely. And that turned into my mini little internship. And then throughout that, I just kind of went to a lot of events that Web Design hosted. They did like a Samsung portfolio review. And I didn't even have a portfolio at the time, but I just went and I was like, hey, like, here's my business card. I printed it off my own printer, but like, I can do anything. And just kind of shoving myself out there and annoying people over LinkedIn. And it works. I mean, you'll eventually catch someone's eye at the end of the day.
And one thing that keeps you where you're at?
I love my job, my team. Our amount of innovation and creativity freedom we get is unreal, especially at a company as big as Amazon. And the amount of growth and freedom just within the company, they really promote like moving to other teams and exploring other areas to help you personally grow in your specific design regions. So it's super awesome and hard to keep you from leaving. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. Just give her a hand.
Okay. Hi. So me, I was a stylist and a magazine editor. I was a fashion editor for 9 years. And then, so my background was in print. Yeah, so my background was in print, and I was thinking, like, we do such good work here in the magazine. I was in the Philippines then. We do such good work in the magazine, and I feel like it's just so local. Like, we didn't have a global presence, and to have a global identity, you have to be, you know, online and have that presence in the digital world. So I proposed to my magazine to create an online counterpart. So I kind of headed that, and I kind of fell in love with that world. And I always had a knack with, you know, I wasn't supposed to be laying out my own pages, but I was doing it because it was just something that I really like to do. So I've always played with this idea of design and taking my master's. So I did. Like, I took the leap. Everyone thought I was crazy because I was pretty much on top of my career at 9 years, doing like a lot of campaigns, and it was so glamorous to people outside, but it was really toxic for me, and I was getting tired of it, and I wanted to learn again because I felt like I hit a ceiling. So I quit my job, and everyone was like, she's having a nervous breakdown, she's throwing her life away, but I just knew that I wanted to do it. So I did, and it was the best decision ever. I fell in love with design. I think the thing that really, you know, resonated with me was, with UX at least, it's like a people job. It requires a lot of empathy. So it's not like the thing that I do now is not just making things cool and making things look good and pretty. It's like understanding our users, falling in love with the problem instead of just, subscribing to just a solution. I think that's the one that keeps me in the job. I skipped over. Yeah. But, so I was in school and there was Ideate, and I remember school is like the most stressful thing. I was working for 9 years, and I felt like the 2 years in school was like the hardest 2 years of my life. I was so stressed out. I wasn't ready for my review yet, but I was like, I have to do Ideate, and I was so glad I did because I was waiting in the hallway for another company, and someone from Ancestry was like, hey, I'm free. Do you want to chat? And I was like, okay, cool. And then him and I showed him my portfolio for like 5 minutes, and then he saw something there because we both like symbolism. So he saw like a symbol there, and he was like, oh my gosh, I love this. We didn't talk about my portfolio at all. We just chatted for 15 minutes. And then we followed each other on Instagram, and we started liking each other's photos. And it was this like slow buildup of a friendship. And then I saw him at a random event. He was like, hey, do you still need a job? I'm like, yeah. And he got me an interview like 2 days after that, and I got in right after. So it's more of this, like, I guess the moral of the story is how I got in is really mostly like relationship building. I think that's really important. Before I even got that job, I was at career events. I did Women in Tech. I did expat women, a lot of mentoring events. I would make friends with recruiters. I would ask them out for coffee. I wouldn't say like, hey, recruiter, give me a job. It'd be like, I want you to see my work and let me know what you think. I think that's more genuine. Coffee chats, definitely. So that was kind of my path. And with Ancestry, I guess what makes me stay, it's really built on empathy. I love my team and my manager and the work that we do. Genomic tech is really new. There's no set rules or lines. So we're kind of forging our way. We're like pioneering what genomic tech is, and I think that's really exciting.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
What was the question again?
How did you get in to your first job? Second now, right?
Second. So my route was much more grueling and not as fun as getting beers or getting coffee with people. I did just applying nonstop to places I loved, places I wanted to be, and then just honing my portfolio to like the toppest T. I would reach out to creative directors. I really enjoyed their work, and I would ask them for help and feedback, any that they could give. Even just the shortest thing, just part of a project to start teeing it up even better of what they imagined this would be or how this would go. Kept going from there. Another big thing that helped out is in the advertising department, I found an art director who was amazing. His name's Chase Grammer. I don't know if any of you know who he is. But he helped me get my first job because they hired us as a pair. So if you have a friend that you really like working with, whether it's a copywriter, art director, strategist, team up with them and just make the coolest shit you can possibly think of, and then start applying and reaching out and building your community. And second part was, why do I stay in it? Started in advertising, went over to tech, still technically in marketing advertising department. I really just like the idea of telling a story in any form, whether it's an email, landing page, or what have you. The ability to tell a story and then help build a product is really the coolest thing. So that's why I stay.
Great. I'm actually, before you give Thomas a round of applause, I'm gonna keep the line of questioning going off of something you mentioned. You said you really focused on finding the kind of place you wanted to work at. What was your criteria for that? How did you decide, like, that's a cool place, I want to be there?
A lot of it had to do with people. Because I'm still technically a young writer, we're all young creatives out here, I wanted to grow as much as possible. And I wanted to choose a place that, one, would help me grow in that, but also one where I could see myself, building out a career and building out a place where I actually had some footing. And also finding a company that has a strong mission. Palo Alto Networks has a pretty good mission. It's trying to protect the world from cyber attacks. It's a pretty cool one. Not quite as cool as Amazon's, but hit me up. And so, yeah, finding a mission, finding a place, finding a creative agency that you really like their drive, you like what they're doing. That's the best place to start.
Great. Now you can give them applause. Let's keep that going. That's a good question for all of you, I think. So let's keep on that line. How do you you kind of have a different story than Thomas, but when you were thinking about where you wanted to work, what was your criteria for, oh, that's a cool place, I would love to work at that place?
I think, like Thomas, more of the mission. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people can relate, but I was on a visa time constraint, so I couldn't be completely choosy because I had a timeline to make. But I was really happy with Ancestry. I interviewed and I got offers with other jobs, but I remember looking for mission, and I felt like Ancestry has an amazing mission to connect your past, present, and future, and allowing people to empower their voice to tell their own unique story about their history. I think that really resonated with me. Another thing was women in the workplace. So I was interviewed by our VP, who was a woman. I love that. And then my team, I was going to work with 3 other women, and I felt like that was really good. Other companies that interviewed me, one of them that gave me an offer was I would be the only one woman in the floor, 2 in the whole company. So I was like, I don't know if that's the environment I was ready for as my first job. So that's another thing that I was looking for. And then my manager, I think we forget when we are being interviewed, I think we forget that we should be interviewing them as well. Ask really pointed questions to the person that's going to be your manager, because he or she will be your biggest cheerleader, so you want to make sure that they're good people as well. So I was very lucky. I love my manager.
Wait, what was the question again?
So what did you use to judge what kind of place you wanted to work at?
So I remember before I got called about my internship with Amazon, I was interviewing with a UX design agency in Chicago. And I was super excited because they seemed like the perfect fit through that interview process. It turned out it was unpaid, and it was in Chicago. I just got back from New York. There was no way, you're just trying to survive in San Francisco now. There's no way you could afford another place. So I was like, okay, this won't work. And then a week later, Amazon called about the internship. And so I started that whole process. But I was a little nervous because I'm like, these people aren't the nicest. But then again, you're going through an interview. No one's going to be all warm and fuzzy. It was a very different experience than the agency I was interviewing for. So I was a little nervous, and then I got the offer. And the thing my dad and I talked about is okay, it's an internship. It's 3 months. There's no way you could turn down Amazon. You have to go. And so I'm like, yeah, of course. If I end up hating it for some reason, I can just, I'll be done after 3 months. Well, it turned out the complete opposite of what I came in really nervous about. It was the people on the team were amazing. My manager, totally a cheerleader, love her. And yeah, so it's just you don't really know until you get in there. It's hard to judge things from an interview or reading reviews. Everyone's experience is so different. So kind of just have to go through it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
When I started looking for jobs, to be honest, when I was here, it didn't really bother me that much. I wasn't really job hunting because I was so focused on getting done with school and creating cool stuff. And I remember it was my final semester, and we had a teacher, Denise, and she's like, have you started networking? I'm like, no, I know 2 people in the industry. And she's like, no, you need to start now. And so I started going for different networking events, started figuring out where I wanted to be. And you have those thoughts in your mind, whether you kind of need to differentiate whether you want to be in a global agency or you want to be in a smaller in-house sort of agency. And to me, the most important point was learning somewhere where I can grow as a junior and grow quickly as a junior, because I didn't want to be a junior for 5 years and then get a promotion at a big global agency, because that happens. So I knew of the Ogilvy's and BBDO, and I knew all these places, but I started looking more at smaller in-house agencies in San Francisco. And I also had a visa restriction. I still have a visa restriction. But what I also wanted to do is, and I advise you all to do this, was I had a summer off where I went back home to India, and I actually did an internship back home because I wanted to see how advertising was in India versus America, because I'd already been at Young and Hungry for 1 semester. So I kind of want to get a feel of how advertising worked over there, whether it's something I wanted to finish school here and go back home and work because I saw potential and growth over there. It was cool, didn't necessarily like it because it wasn't the vibe that I wanted. It was a cool agency though. And then I came back to the US, and a very important thing to do is the teachers that come from outside, like your outside instructors, when they come from like Facebook or HEGDE or Swirl, like listen to what they have to say, impress them, because they're the ones that like will push you forward if they think you have potential in you. And I had 2 instructors. One instructor was from Swirl, and there was another instructor who knew a person somewhere else, and they offered to get me internships at those places, but unfortunately I couldn't work at that point. So I still had that contact though. They still knew like my work, they still knew what I was doing. So I listened to the companies that they would work at. And one of my instructors, who was a social media strategy instructor, she was a strategist at HEGDE. And that's how I found out about HEGDE. And I looked into HEGDE, and as a strategist, I wanted to go to an agency that focused on strategy and had a strong strategy team, because it's cool to work at a design agency, but I'm not going to like, there's nothing coming out for me over there as for like my growth potential. So HEGDE was on my mind, and randomly, it's weird, but like when you're on LinkedIn, stalk recruiters. Look at their profile because they see you looking at their profile, so then they look at your profile. Very important thing to do.
That's a great trick.
Yeah. So that's what I did for like a couple of months. I'd stalk recruiters. I use LinkedIn more than any other social media platform. And I would send out emails to people. Like when they would email me, I would be prompt, email them back. Have all your stuff together, have your portfolio together, have your website, your numbers, everything together, and just keep sending it through. There will be failures over there. I can't tell you like the countless companies I interviewed for and said no to me. And it did suck. It hurt, but you just have to keep pushing through, and you just need to know like where you want to go. And if you're a designer, then what design agency is going to help you build that? If you're a strategist, which agency is going to help you build that? HEGDE has an amazing strategy team. And when I went for the interview over there, I interviewed twice with 5 different people. And they have a huge strategy team. And the mentors were amazing. Like the way they thought, the way they spoke, everything about like their mentality related to mine. And I said, yes, I want to be here. And before I finished, I did get a job before HEGDE, way back in April. I won't mention the company's name, but they offered me a job, and I said yes. I was like, okay, cool, like send me the offer letter, I'll take it. And I remember talking to Wojo and Terry about it, and they were like, is that what you really want? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I guess this is what I want, but it's kind of taking that step of faith and just saying, okay, no, better things will come my way, and better things did come my way. So if you're an international student, you have visa restrictions, like I know how hard it can be, but draw the line between being desperate for something and actually wanting something of where you want to be, because your growth is more important than grabbing the first job that comes at you. I went through 2 internships and then I got a job, and those 2 internships like built me. So don't be desperate to get a job, like get a job that will build you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you really got a really good point. She mentioned about rejection. And I want to take that and start where I came from there, where I think rejection in our industry, from right now where you guys are at the stage of, getting into the industry to where we are, years down, is your strength. Understanding rejection and understanding, defeat should be one of your biggest strengths, because you will be facing that all along the way. And it's very key because, again, to their points, when I started looking for jobs, I got a lot of rejections. I was shopping my book. I was pretty confident about my book, but I was not confident about myself, the way I was presenting myself, the way I was speaking. Sometimes I was like, am I missing something? Am I not doing something right? Am I not saying the right things? And I had these lot of blocks, I had these blockers in front of me. And through the interview processes, I realized that I had to punch through those blocks and just be myself. I'm just going to say what I want. I'm just going to be myself. And if someone accepts me, they'll accept me for it. And that's it. Let's just do that. And that somehow worked. And that's when I got the first call from Goodby Silverstein. And Goodby Silverstein is one of the most top agencies in the city, in the country. And I was very nervous. And I was like, this is weird because the small shops are rejecting me, and the biggest shop kind of called me. I was like, this is awkward. But then I get a call saying that Rich Silverstein wants to talk to me, and he wants to interview me at 7:30 in the morning. I'm like, oh my God, freaking out, legend. And then I go and I was there shivering. I was like sitting there like at 6 o'clock. I was there super early. And then I sit down with this guy, and he is like a legend in advertising. And then when he speaks, he comes down to my level, and he came down to a level where he just related with me. And I didn't feel he was this like big star. And he just was so humble. He sat down calmly. He's a little eccentric, so he's ADD. But if you know him, he took his time with me, and more than work, he spoke about life, about this one campaign, and that really struck a big deal about why. And answering your question, why I like Goodby, because it's a place where being humble is the core value of the place. When you at Goodby Silverstein, you're going to we work with one of the most talented people in the industry. People from around the world, people graduating, but there's a sense of just healthy competition. There's no dicks or douchebags around who's trying to push you down. Or it's a sense of pushing, getting the best work possible. So you have to achieve to get the best work, and how do you do that? And you got to collaborate and work with people. And again, it's a place where the core values, the people make the place, the people made the culture of the place that made the work better, if that makes sense. And it's just when you work with people you like, it goes a long way. And talking about being humble, it's another story. Was one of my instructors, two of them were from Attic. This guy is called Mike and Greg, if you remember them. Super talented guys, and being humble is important, and being nice with people you work with is super important because it's a very small industry. You guys are going to be tomorrow. You guys are going to be ECDs, CMOs, CCOs in the future, but you guys are going to be working together. You might not see each other for 5 years, and suddenly, hey, you know what? You're going to work with her. And it's such a very small industry. And my instructors were great to me. They were super helpful. They made my book. My final book was through. I took a second semester with them. And then 6 years later, I was very proud. So I got my job because of them, and then 6 years later, I get a call at Goodby saying, hey, can you interview these two guys, this team? I was like, sure, send me their book, I'll have a look, and get back. And it's these two, my instructors. So it's it's kind of table turns, I'm like, and it just blew my mind. I was like, oh my God. But it's very important because now here I am trying to hire them. But being humble and and them being nice to me, and it's just being good human beings. I didn't have an interview. I was like, yeah, let's get them in, and it's done. It's a done deal. So my point was work in a place where you're happy working with. Don't choose a place because you have to choose a place. And you're right. I'm an immigrant too, and I understand the need and the stress of some of you guys of visas and the green cards, and it's a pain in the But think of the final goal. Think of what makes you happy. You all are creative people, and you got to be happy doing creative things. You just can't force things sometimes. So keep that in mind, and then make your decisions.
Great, thank you, Shravan. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for answering that line. Just a little color commentary to a lot of the comments we just had up here. This industry, it's okay to jump jobs if it's not working out. Mm-hmm. It's not really frowned upon, and in a lot of ways, it's kind of.
Yeah, I mean, you got to, jump jobs. Look what's out there. No one takes it. There's a saying in advertising, and I'm sure it's a new media, and most, the day you get a new job, it's the same day you start looking for the next one, and that's the truth. So yeah. Very
cool. Yeah, thank you. We're gonna move on to another question, and just so you know, we're going to ask a couple more questions, then we'll open it up to some questions from you guys and from the online audience. So let me jump back to getting the job part. Anybody can jump in who wants to. What's a common misconception about getting your first job? And I like two-parters, so the follow-up would be, and how can these guys address that to help with that?
So I guess I can just relate to what I thought, like, going into my job. For like the 2 weeks before my first day, I was so insecure and I felt like an imposter. Like, I felt like they needed me on the first day to know everything. Like, in my mind, my manager's going to be like, show me sketch, show me to do this. Like, it's like a test, and it wasn't. And until now, like, you still are learning. So don't hold off applying for. So I was like, I'm not going to apply for this company and this company because I'm not ready, because I'm not, an expert. So that's not true. I think whatever job you have, like, you'll always learn. They're not going to expect you to know everything your first week, your first month, your first 6 months. You learn along the way, so don't hold off because you're insecure or you feel like an imposter.
That's great. Yeah, Thomas?
What was it again? Sorry, full question.
What's a common misconception about getting your first job?
Having any fear of asking questions. It was something I had to deal with my first couple months at the agency I was working at. I had this fear of sounding dumb or not fully there. And just the breaking that fear and being able to ask, like, why is this like this? Why is this like that? It just helps you build. It helps them build. And it's just losing that. That's all I got.
I think the biggest thing is confidence. When you go in, especially for me, being so young in the office, I didn't feel like I had the right to really speak up in certain meetings or to like push some of my ideas forward. But now, like, you learn over time that you do have that confidence. You just have to walk into the meeting and feel powerful and confident, and don't think that age is a factor either. There's many times that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm too young. No one's going to take me seriously. But you just have to bring that confidence to the table and run and push for any ideas that you're proud of. And yeah.
Couple of things. When it's your first interview, when you're going for an interview, a common misconception is that they only care about your portfolio. Your portfolio is essential, but your story is more important. Even with companies that I knew I didn't want to be a part of, I just do fun interviews with them to learn about to say my story and like how well I can convince a person under like a minute that I am smart and like I can do this and I'm capable of doing this, even though I just came out of college. Your portfolio is important. Have an amazing portfolio, but also have a story to tell. Who you are matters more. Because when I interviewed at Heat, I probably got asked once about my portfolio. They didn't care about it. It was more of who was I as a person and where I see myself going. So, and it changes because you alter your story to questions being asked during your interview. But what you want to come out as is ambitious and that you're confident in what you do. And even though I was so petrified and I was so scared when I was talking, like I had to fight all that and speak confidently and just be honest with them and be real with them. Just be you, basically. And that's the hardest thing to do because I've seen a lot of people when they go for interviews, they tend to like put on this fake face and they can read through that because the people talking to you have seen a bunch of different people in the industry. So be real, be you. Another misconception is, I forgot my train of thought at this moment. Happens. Yeah, they don't care. I mean, they do care about your portfolio, but your story matters more. And just have... No, I lost it. I was going to get it back to you.
We'll come back to you. I think one of the misconceptions I think I can think of right now is... I know when we're all young and we're all creative and we are in creative lines, but the biggest misconception is when you go into a business, like you go into an ad agency or you go into a tech company, we forget that it's a business. You know, we are creative people working in a business environment, and we always forget that, and we get confused about where the line of creativity is, and that's so be mindful of that when you go in. Understand the industry, understand the clients you're working for, understand people you work with. Ask questions to adding to people like you're going to work with the brightest minds in the industry. You're going to work with coders. You're going to work with illustrators, motion graphics, or directors. So understand what they do. And this makes you better. Don't stay in if you're an art director, if you're a new media motion graphics artist, don't stay there. Like go beyond that. It makes you better. It makes you better, and and it helps you understand the business better, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And of course, one main thing I tell a lot of interns who come and work with us: don't feel shy to ask, to show work. Ask questions, but also show work. Like if you're briefed on something, hey, this is an assignment. Do the brief, follow the brief, do the answers, but come with more stuff. I'm always pushing for like, what's that extra stuff you can bring? Briefs are there, they're good, they're strategy, but you have to go beyond. You got to impress. You got to impress the creative director way more because everyone's busy. But if you don't catch the eye of the people you're working for, it's going to take a longer. It's going to be longer for you to be noticed, if that makes sense. So. Be pushy. It's okay to be a little annoying. If people are annoyed, they just tell you straight off, hey, stop bugging me. And you get the point, and you walk away. But there's no harm done doing that. So, yeah.
Sure.
And I remember.
We'll go back to you, Rochelle.
I have one, I think it's really important, and I didn't really feel this or know this when I was looking for work, but another common misconception, especially if you're on a visa and especially if you're kind of desperate, is that you don't negotiate. I think everyone should negotiate, especially women, so I didn't. I was like, yes, thank you. I'm so grateful. I'll take anything. I'll do it for free. I'll do this just to stay. And I think I really miss an opportunity there to show it not only gives you more money, that's nice, but it also shows like you kind of stand up for yourself or you show up for yourself. So my manager during my first annual review, he was like, well, your first mistake in this company is accepting the package without negotiating. And again, this goes back to like having a good manager. He was like, I'm going to give you a market rate change. So usually people get like 10% bonus a year, but he was like, I'm going to give you a 25% bonus because you're not supposed to be earning this much. You're supposed to be earning this much. So that's another thing.
Another, just like going off what you said about being an intern. So as soon as I came out of college, like I was at an intern at 2 agencies. The vibe as an intern is very different. There are a lot of things that you have to do where they just be like, do this and do that. And I remember like coming out of college, like coming out of Young and Hungry, where I was in a room with my peers and I was so confident to speak up and like speak my mind and be like, yeah, I'll be in charge of this. I'll do this. And like always being proactive because I was amongst my age group and amongst people I know, as compared to when I went to FCB West, everyone was so senior to me. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is scary because I can't actually speak my mind. And I had an amazing mentor. I was right under the chief of strategy. His name was Simon White. And he a brilliant man. Like he let me sit in on meetings. He always encouraged me to read books. So that was good. But the one thing that I regret in that internship was I didn't speak up because I was too awkward and I was very shy. And it's like I don't regret it. That was a learning phase for me. But don't be afraid to speak your mind. Don't be afraid to tell them, yeah, maybe I did this. The research that I did doesn't align with this. And another misconception is that they're going to know everything. They don't always know everything, but you have to be one step ahead of them. So when I went in for my second internship at BSSP when I was a new business intern, I was always one step ahead of everything that we were doing. So if that problem would come up, I'd have research immediately to back it up. So that, again, impresses people like, okay, she knows what she's talking about and she knows what she's doing. And when I started working at HEAT, there was a transition that I spoke to my mentor about at HEAT, where when you finish up as an intern and when I went into HEAT, I was an employee. So I was equal to everyone. I wasn't at that bottom over there. So it took me a a month or two to start talking, to start sharing ideas. But my advice to you will be don't think you're below them. Consider yourself an equal, not in a cocky way. Be humble, but always push for ideas and going that extra mile. Like, I don't know about y'all, but when I was in school, I always did extra credit, questions and anything. It's basically doing extra credit when you're when you're in advertising. It's always impressing them, showing them that you can do more, and just going that extra mile. That's what impresses them, and that's what shows that you are curious to be in the industry. Yeah.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Let's give them a round for that one. Good job. So we're going to sort of wade into the industry a little deeper with this next one. And answer this according to your sliding scale of how long you've been in the industry. So how has the industry changed, let's say, in the last 5 years, and then maybe on the other end of the scale, how has it changed since you've been there?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. So in advertising specifically, it's changed a lot. It was very traditional. So when I joined, it was super traditional. It was like very TV-heavy broadcast, straight-up print. And then it was also like the budgets were way bigger. We were talking about like $6-7 million budgets for just one TV spot. You know, it's massive. And then now the way it's moved is that post-economic recession, the budgets kind of became smaller. So we're doing. So it's kind of hard to like be creative. You can be really creative. That's actually a good challenge because now the projects are smaller, less budgets, but it gives you an opportunity to like really be creative. Like how can you make the smartest, smallest content in like the lowest in $100,000 budget? Another way the industry has changed is again what I spoke about earlier is technology, and how does that really result in your work? So the ideas we come out with is very innovative. It's very experiential. How do you hack Facebook natively to do something cool? You know, how do I engage with the audience in a way which is, again, not a slap in your face? Like one of the ideas I worked on for Chevy was we actually threw a car to launch a car. We actually threw a car off like a 100-foot platform. But the way we did it was it was rigged through technology where every click of a button, it pushes the car like a millimeter, forward. So we engaged users to like start clicking as it bungeed down like a 100-foot platform. So again, that was the first change of wave of like new age thinking. Like how do you really push the barriers of like technology and bring it into like marketing? And that's where we are right now. Of course, right now, so that was a big up, and now it's come down to major social media. It's a big hotbed right now. 2018 is all about like how do you engage users through like cool content, but at the same time being unique. There's a lot of shit out there. Sorry for the language. There's a lot of.
We'll bleep that.
Yeah, he'll bleep that. There's a lot of like content, but really you got to make content that stands out. What's unique. So yeah, I think that's one of the biggest changes I've seen.
Thank you.
Okay. So when I was here, I feel like that's, at least from my understanding, UX design started to really get this big push. We started offering UX design classes. Maybe they were here before then. I don't know. But that's at least when I started realizing it in the real world. And I feel like it's slowly starting to grow, at least through like General Assembly and all these meetups through Eventbrite and Meetup. And then actually when I first started at Amazon, we work really closely with our developers and product managers. And we were actually hosting all these kind of like brown bag sessions to have people come in and we'll teach them what we actually do. So they knew how to use us UX designers right. Don't come to us with just, you need mock-up designs. That's not what we do. So we were trying to educate, even just within Amazon, what UX design is. And just within this first year that I've been there, I've noticed such a change, not even just within the company, but around the whole area of people's knowledge of UX design, how to use us, what we do. So it's exciting. Yeah.
Anybody else? Angela? No? Thomas? Anything changed since you started?
I feel like it's always changing with design. I feel like I always say like it never ends. There's no ending in design. Like whatever we designed. So this whole year we had a secret project that finally launched, so I can talk about it. But from the start of that project to now, like, it's changed so much that even when we launched like 2 weeks ago, I know like in a week it's going to look different because we're always just moving forward. We're testing, we're iterating, we are learning from our users, and with that it changes. And I guess that's the answers, like the changes in design. I noticed that changes in the industry, like what you said, your portfolio is going to get you through the door, but I noticed that it really helps when you know someone. So networking is like the magic solution. Networking will get you a step closer even. So yes, your portfolio when you're looking for a job should be really good, but like networking is really important. And the story, and I think just be genuine. And I think that's what we look for now. Because then, like, I'm thinking about, like, when we're hiring. So we hire someone, we see their portfolio, and we're like, yeah, let's give them a shot. Let's give them a call. But when we're actually talking to someone, it's really more you and how you understand a problem, how you can how you can speak to your work. I think that's what I'm seeing. Instead of, like, before, it would be just, like, your portfolio. If you're really good and you're hired, now it's, like, who is this person, and will this person fit into our group?
Great. Oh, Rochelle, go ahead.
I feel like I've not been in the industry for that long, but we all grew up with traditional advertising. Even though we didn't work with it, we saw it around us. And what I feel is changing, even while I was at the academy and when I started working, was especially if you're like in strategy or if you're in design, whatever, is like the importance of data and numbers. As much as people will say it's not relevant, it's very relevant, especially when you're trying to like please clients. You need to have insights, and like there's so many marketing tools that are available to get research and data from. So I feel like data plays a huge part in how it influences ideas and how it builds ideas and backs it up. Another thing would be social media is definitely taking over at the moment. And with even like the day before we launch a campaign, like Instagram has a new update or Facebook has a new update, and we have to like work around those updates. So staying updated on every social media platform and what's happening and using that data again to like build campaigns is so readily available in your hands. And I feel like the industry is like definitely entering into an area where data is going to play a major role, and how technology is just going to keep growing. But your ideas need to challenge technology and go beyond technology, in my opinion. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And I would just add to that, keep in mind these answers, if you haven't noticed, they may be addressing one or the other industry, web, new media, or advertising, but they're really the same answers for both, right? That the idea of big data, it covers, it's a general topic, right? Yeah. So, yeah. So we're on a bit of a time budget here, so I'd like to open it up to the floor for right now. Does anyone have any questions out there? Yeah, here, let me, he beat you to the punch, and then you can go next. Or actually, you go first, and then pass it to him. Sorry.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ida. I'm a web design new media student. This is mostly directed to Angela and Jessica, I think, within UX, but I'm aspiring to become a UX designer, and I have the visual background, and I was wondering if you could relate to like the lack of like research process and not having the psychology background and stuff like that. And yeah, if you have any advice on how to add more stuff to research and things.
Were you saying that you were interested in getting into research?
Or not like research, but with like the full stack UX project. So like learning more about research without having like the psychology background or things like that.
I don't think you need, well, for example, like I don't have a psychology background, but when there was a time where our user research team was spread too thin. So I don't think you need a psychology background. There's so many tools there. So for example, I would use usertesting.com. I think just understanding your goals and your learning objective, and having a test plan will really help. And that's all I do. And I do it sometimes. I moderate my own tests. Of course, I get buy-in from legal and like privacy and like my UX research team. But I don't think a psychology background is really necessary.
Okay, cool.
Oh, just to add on to that, you can do testing, super scrappy, paper prototypes, anything, just as long as you show like what you had before testing, the feedback you got, and then your improvements you made on that. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. We do scrappy user testing or customer interviews every day, and just to get that feedback and have something behind our designs.
Hi, my name is Vincent. I'm a first-year grad student in the web design and media department. I want to know if you think a lot of jobs will be replaced by AI in the future, and what can we do to upgrade ourselves and compete against AI to prevent ourselves from being replaced?
It's an interesting question. I mean, design-wise, I think no matter what, we are the closest to the customer or the users. So no matter what, like even if it is just user testing and talking to them, that is so valuable. And being able to back up every decision with that communication you have with the customers. So I don't really know an answer to that. I would just say we have a very valuable role, and I don't think there's really a time that we can just be easily replaced right now.
And I think with design, it's so nuanced. So and it's so subjective in a way too. So I don't know. I can't imagine a computer saying, "I like the shade of blue better with the shade of green," because it's very like nuanced and subjective. Again.
Sorry, I was just going to say, especially what's going on right now in the world with technology, I think it's now even more important to have that face-to-face connection and the empathy, like she said. We do a lot with like colors, and like right now we're working on a certain color scheme, and it's so hard because we're trying to make it accessible but also try and convey this certain feel. And I don't think a computer we'll look at all these different colors that they generate for us, but it's just not what we're looking for, or it's hard to match those two together. So it's, yeah, in a way I feel like there's certain things that they can't do right now, but yeah.
I mean, yeah, just a quick add to that. I mean, just one overall thing is that, machines are learning really quick, and there's definitely machine learning, but designs that machines do is perfect. What we do is we make imperfections beautiful, and that can never be replaced by AI. So, that's it.
Copyright emerge.
Hey guys, Igor Rose, Web New Media Department, motion designer. I was going to ask, through your times in the professional industry, have you ran into anything that completely contradicted your learnings throughout your respective departments throughout the years here? And how did you go about cooperating with that exact contradiction and adjusting to what you've completely learned for the last 4 years here?
So when I was here, we were taught programming and UX design, but also some graphic design. So when I had my first internship at Teak, it's a small agency, the creative director, the design director, was such a dick. He was only looking for brand logo designers, and I felt like I couldn't fit into that mold. And because of that, coming back on my last semester, I was like, I'm not a designer, because he taught me that this is what a designer is, and that's not what school taught me. School taught me more than that. And so coming in, I was like, I'm not a designer. I'm going to be a programmer because I'm not a good designer. And it was my portfolio teacher, Tom Walter, that was like, you are going to not, you're going to listen to this director who was such an asshole to you, and give up your design career because of that. Like, he was the one who kind of changed my mind. And now, being in this industry, I realized, design is so many different things, and it's up to you and what your brand of design is. So that's kind of like the disparity between, the real world. Sometimes there's going to be people that are going to tell you different things from what you learned in school, and it's really up to you to shape what that is.
Hi, my name is Juanita. I'm a web design and media student as well. I don't know if this is off. Yeah, you're good. I was wondering, like, half of you guys are international students or were international students at some point. With the current political climate going on in this country, do you feel there is a change against your nationalities? Or, like, how is that perceived and is it impacting your career?
Yeah, I was just talking to SHRAVAN earlier. So I got picked, my H-1B got picked early in April, and usually when that happens, it's an approval. So Ancestry was like, we're so confident, you know, in all our years, we've never had a denial. And of course, we've also never had a precedent, like our precedent now. But so recently, September, I got a denial. So that was a huge shock, and I was just really lucky that my company is very supportive. So yeah, there's a huge difference now. Their reasoning was design is not a specialty occupation. I guess they're just finding more loopholes now. So my advice is when you're going through that process with a company, like be really on top of what they're doing. Because what happened was with my lawyer, my legal team at least, they listed me as graphic design. So the H-1B like letter or like form is dated back in the 70s. There's no user experience designer listed on there. It's either software engineer, that's not even software engineer, I think it's just engineer, like old school engineering, or graphic design. So, and it's up to whoever officer is looking at your work. If they don't know what design is, it's also really hard. So just be on top of what your legal team and your company is doing. Yeah, I have like 4 applications going on now.
My advice would be, so when I finished at the academy, I got my OPT, which let me work for a year. So I hope all of y'all know, if y'all check with the departments, if STEM's allowed. And if you're in the STEM program, you get 2 years added to your visa. So right now, I submitted my application in November. So I'm waiting for an approval on that. And then once that approval comes through, my company will sponsor me. What's hard is most of my rejections from interviews were when they have their screening questions, they ask you if you need sponsorship. Don't ever lie on that question, because you do need sponsorship at one point. And the moment you say that you need sponsorship, they'll reject you. So because either the company's not sponsoring or they don't want to take on that burden of going through paperwork and all the legalities. But don't be discouraged. Keep looking. Usually, in my experience, bigger companies do not sponsor junior positions. They only sponsor senior positions. But a lot of smaller companies, and you're in like the perfect city, San Francisco has so many tech companies who actually sponsor a lot of international students. So look over there, do those things. For me, I got really lucky because HEAT was bought by Deloitte, which is a global agency. So Deloitte is actually sponsoring me, and it's not HEAT. So I don't know if Deloitte didn't own HEAT, I don't know what would have happened. But take the best advantage of your OPT, of your STEM. And even if nothing works out, sorry to any Americans over here, don't underestimate the power of your country and what's coming out of there, because cool stuff comes out from a lot of European countries and Asian countries. So it's not all in America. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I can add that because I'm international. I mean, to be honest, to your question, it is a pretty bad time. So not going to deny that. It's very unfortunate that we are in this world where we got to struggle for the most menial things like that, where in one hand the entire globe is moving to this small industry where we all working together, it's all collaborative, and then we got to deal with this nonsense. But that said, a little tip is about hard work. Mark Edwards was one of my teachers here, and then he also taught me about one thing was like the way I kind of got around was O visa. So I just worked super hard on all the work I did was I was trying to send to some award shows as a student. You know, I sent it to publications. So if you're new media, there are publications, there are like organizations. I'm not familiar. I'm sure UX design programs, talks where you can get featured. Any kind of feature of your work out there will help you apply for an O visa, which is a talent visa. That is complete freedom. Like that's like H1B, which I was an H1B too, and it's a lottery now, and it's tougher. But that's one way to look at it. So I'm also saying that you guys got to work really hard. It's a good thing. But again, I think these guys are completely right. I'm going back to what I said earlier. Like choose a place where you want to work, which is true if you're American. But I'm just kidding. But like a big company makes a big difference. Like if you have like a Goodby or an Ancestry, you'll have a solid lawyer team. You'll have good lawyers who have been in the system, Google or Netflix, whatever. That goes a long way because they just back you up. It's a very diverse environment at Google or Ancestry and Goodby and I'm sure other companies. So they know the system. They'll find loopholes to keep you in the country. So yeah.
So one thing that I didn't do my few years here in school or even like while I was working at Ancestry is to build your brand, like continue to build your brand, because you're right, your O1 is going to require you to have photos in the internet, featured articles or blog posts written about you, and like have things featured, like an app of the day feature, or just like a media mention, like student blah 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 said this, like in a blog. Like Adobe blog is really good for that too. So right now build your brand, because when your H1B gets denied, and I hope that doesn't happen, you're gonna have to do an O1, and that's really tough because you have to gather all these like papers about you and how you have to prove basically that you're extraordinary. And a part of that is a lot about building your brand. So just do that now. Have an online presence, a really strong one.
Hi, I'm Lavinia. I'm an advertising grad student. And I was wondering, it was very inspiring and comforting to hear how you got to the job that you have. I was just wondering, as someone looking for a job, how do you, what is going to make you stop to look at a portfolio, open an email, look at LinkedIn? What in your busy lives, what triggers it?
Thank you for that question. I get a lot of LinkedIn emails from people from the academy who want to meet me and like go over their portfolio with me and things like that. It's nerve-wracking to be on the other side of, okay, cool, I'll judge your work. But my advice to you would be build relationships first. Nobody likes you just sending over your portfolio and be like, can I have a job? Like, how cool is this sort of thing? It's more of building relationships, taking time to know that person, approaching them politely and just being like, hey, I have some work to show you. Can we grab a cup of coffee? And then just talk about those things. So in order to stand out, be creative in what you say. We are in a creative industry. And to me, like what stands out the most is people who are curious, people who are hungry to like learn more, to get to just like me to talk about or show their work. But like once you get through that phase of meeting the person, don't just meet the person and say, so I did meet one guy who was like, I want a job. How do I get a job? Tell me, how do I do this? How do I do that? And I'm like, whoa, I'm just an intern. Like, I can help you with your work, but I can't help you get a job. So it's building contacts, but at the end of the day, we can push your name forward, but we can't guarantee that you're going to get a job at our agency. But you still have that relationship of, okay, I know someone in this industry and I can do this. I remember when I was applying for jobs, because I was connected to Alumni on LinkedIn, whenever I would apply for a job, LinkedIn would say, hey, this person is works over here. Do you want a reference to that? And I would email that person. Don't just give that person's name and be like, hey, can I put you down as a reference? And they'd obviously say yes, sometimes no. But you just push that forward. But be human in what you say. Be nice when you approach us, and we'll like definitely help you. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know, but on LinkedIn, if you, let's say you see an Amazon job up and you click, like it says, oh, your connection Jessica also works there, asks for a referral or something. If you click that, it automatically sends an automated message. And the first one I got, I was like, oh, this is nice, cool. And then I kept getting the same message, and I'm like, oh, you guys aren't going to personalize it at all? Like, I'm just getting the same message. And it's fine because I actually know these people, we're connections. But if it's someone I don't know, I don't really respect it as much because it's the same message. You didn't customize it all. You didn't spend much time on it. So if you are going to do that, I would say reach out to the person first, make it a little more personable, build that connection like you said, and then move on to that next step.
Oh, go ahead. Where's the mic going?
Sorry for that. I mean, that's really, really interesting because it's a question which I'm sure we all who are sitting here went through it, you know, back in the day. And back in the day, we were doing the same thing, like how do I get someone's attention? And everyone's really busy. And now I'm in that, and you're in that level where I'm like traveling so much, and I don't get to meet people. Or I usually see an average of like 60 books a week, but I just came through it like really fast. I'm like, to be honest, I'll be really honest with that. It's like skim. So the first thing I like to say is like keep your portfolio look and feel, design overall. Doesn't matter if you're a writer, UX designer, should be eye-catching right away off the bat. Because again, to your point, there are a lot of CDs who are very busy, so they're going to skim really fast. So if it's not eye-catching, you're just going to like skip it. That's really key. And secondly, the most thing is again references. You guys in the academy. When I was in the academy, you know, I was in touch with Mark, and of course the other departments. I actually work with the new media department a lot. I work with the MPT department, and I actually spoke to the directors of each department, and said, "Hey, can I work with some students, you know, in your department?" And I just built contacts within within the academy itself, and then I got references from them to people who work in the industry. So does that make sense? So Colin was working in industry, and he referenced me to someone else. Mark referenced me to someone else in the industry, and now that's what we do today. So getting a reference from someone you know holds a lot of weight because then you've already invested in that person. So if that reference is strong, then you do take the time out to look at the book. So that, you know, so take advantage of your instructors and all the alumni.
Hello, my name is Frederick. I'm in advertising. So my question is, it goes to both advertising and web design and media really. What do you think, like 5 years in the future maybe, do you think there's a skill or something that's going to be super important to know or super great to have to give you that extra advantage? Like, what are you guys looking at now, trying to learn that you think you will need to know in 5 years?
I'll quickly answer that. To me, it's because I'm a strategist, people think that I don't have any other skills other than doing research. But I try to debunk that by, if I'm given something to do, for example, creating a presentation, and if you've seen some strategists create presentations, it's just like words, because that's what we deal with the most. But because I know design, and I can copyright as well, I incorporate that, which makes what I do stand out. And I feel like in 5 years from now, even like right now in the industry, people look for, like what I said earlier was people who are dimensional, like three-dimensional, who have all skills. Are chameleons, can easily adjust to anything, learn anything quickly. Because at the end of the day, it's like, yes, you have that name tagged to you as an art writer, copywriter, whatever you are. But when you go into a company, they're going to look for all the skills that you have. And that's what makes you stand out, because that's what impresses like people who are above you of, okay, I can go to him for anything and he knows how to do these things and he knows how to fix these things. A very important thing that I learned at the academy is fake it till you make it. I practice that a lot. Even if I don't know something, I'll be like, yeah, just give me like a minute, I'll get back to you on that. I go to the bathroom, Google it, and I come on, I'm like, yeah, as you were saying. So know it all, basically. Be 10 steps ahead of everyone if you want to learn and grow quickly in this industry.
We have a question from Derek, who's online, and he says, is it fine to start as a freelancer? What do you recommend?
That's a really, really interesting question, actually. I don't know where to look at, but I'll look at you guys. It is okay, because you're getting your first foot in the water to be a freelancer. But I personally would not recommend it. Join a place, learn the ropes, learn the industry, learn the business, get confident, and then step out. So be freelance.
I think it's a good way to just build your portfolio with real projects, with real clients. But yeah, I agree that the actual industry experience is probably more valuable. But if you're just trying to build your portfolio, I think it's a huge plus.
How
Hello, my name is Hui. I'm only the second year of web design new media major. My question is kind of very personal. I'm thinking to take a CPT, like an internship, after this 2 semester. I'm not sure if it's too early, because some people tell me I'm a little bit too rushed to get into the industry, but based on my experience, like 5 years ago when I just graduated from the college, I feel like I did an internship in a game company in China. I feel like I learned so much through the 3 months, more than the 3 years in the school. So do you guys think it's a good time to start internship after 2 semesters? Or you think...
I don't think it's ever too soon to start an internship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Just want this answer.
I just want to finish answer. Sorry, I just want to jump in and finish answering both the questions, even the guy, NASA, sorry. I forgot, I'm sorry. And this is it's a really good question you asked about the 5 years and is going to be changing in skill sets. And this goes for everyone, including new media coders and advertising people, because I think what we do, right, I'm guessing, are you an art director or writer? Copywriter. So that is a skill set. Coding is a skill set. UX design is a skill set. My background is art direction. That's a skill set. But what's number one for all of you guys is you got to be creative thinkers first. So sell yourself as a creative thinker, as a creative, not as an art director or writer, and use your skills, which as an art director, writer, coder, to enhance your creative thinking. So tomorrow you will be, if you're coding for something, you're doing new media for UX design for something, you might move from Tesla to an ad agency, from ad agency to a complete cool, like innovative pharma, industry. That's the change you talk about in 5 years. So things are going to change. It's just how you create and ideate your solutions is the key. If that makes sense.
Another thing with designers is you can't just go into, now I feel in its beginning, you can't just go into an interview, and I think it's good to interview with companies each year, and I do it just as an exercise, but I'm noticing that as designers you shouldn't just have design skills, but you should have product thinking too. So for example, don't just design for a solution to a problem, really think about the problem. Why is the problem there? Really, dissect the issue, because you can fix a solution, but you can't fix, if your app or if your designs don't answer a problem, then that's a problem. If that makes sense. So it's like product thinking. Think strategy, think long-term, think goals. Oftentimes we're so heads down as designers and we just push pixels, but really if you just think a little bit more high level, that really gets you the job. Another thing is data, like what she was saying, put data in, customer satisfaction, engagement, data analytics. I think that's going to equip you as a designer as well.
Hi, my name is Iraqi from the advertising department. I hit you up from LinkedIn, yeah. Do you remember? And my question is about, in advertising agency, a lot position, right? Copywriter, everything. And I'm really interested about the content creator, in the agency, what's kind of how to definition the content creator, and what's kind of the most important quality for the content creator, that thing, because a lot brand build up their content.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, in terms of it's a very new title, content direction, making content. It's something which I think you touched upon about the next big wave in the change is social media, and socially and so we are hiring a lot of content directors. We are hiring a lot of content makers. Now, what kind of content you make depends on you. You could be a director, you could be a designer, you could be a motion graphics artist. So it's a broad umbrella thing. I do have friends who's actually really talented. He was an art director, and then he's now a content director at Edelman. And what he does is just basically make social films for clients. Again, like I said earlier, budgets, the budgets are small, so a lot of agencies are hiring content creators, I'm not sure director is the right word, but content creators to do work for clients in a smaller budget. It could be film, it could be Instagram stories, it could be any small, any small thing basically. So does that answer your question, or does that make sense?
Yeah, we're going to have to bring it to a gliding stop here. Let's give our panel a nice round of applause.